without further ado, we'll roll into the first topic. Obviously, it's going to be Porter Moser, the most pressing topic here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think after watching the press conference today, big Porter guy, love his attitude. I think he's going to fit right into being in Oklahoma in general. He's going to get the students excited to get into the Lloyd Noble. I know that it sounded like that is a huge priority for him and possibly his staff and the team to get that thing packed by the time that he either leaves Oklahoma for a different opportunity or by the time he retires as an Oklahoma head coach. He wants that thing to be rocking every night for a home game. So I'm pumped for him. I hope he gets to a good start. I know it sounded like he's already getting some recruiting going for the Sooners here.
Definitely. No, I mean, Brandon, what was your biggest takeaway?
Like kind of what Jose was saying, I kind of agree. He mentioned high energy about him, talking about himself multiple times. And I think that ties into what Jose was saying about how he wants to fill the arena, how he wants to bring in the staff and the players that are going to buy into that and kind of, want to be around that kind of coaching. And then, you look at, I decided to look at some of his splits. So like I looked at Loyola prior to his arrival, because he coached Loyola for 10 seasons. I looked at Loyola for 10 years before he got there and his 10 years there. Loyola, before he got there, had 4 winning seasons, and then or 4 winning seasons out of 10 before in the previous 10. This dude wins 6 out of 10 winning seasons, takes to the tournament twice, wins the CBI, goes to the NIT. So really 4 postseason appearances when the team hadn't made the NCAA tournament since '85. So a lot of encouraging things, I think, if you're a Sooner fan when it comes to Porter Moser.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And, I think I remember him saying in his interview or his press conference, he said he was a very young 52-year-old coach, very high energy. And the thing is, what I kind of look at it is for our football program, Bob Stoops built, when he inherited it, we weren't great. I mean, obviously he won in the very beginning, but before that we struggled. He inherited something that got built back up, but then he brought a lot of stability. And when I think back, you were talking about 10 years. Well, Lon Kruger was here for 10 years, I believe. And
Yep.
whenever Lon came here, there was a lot of hesitation on his part to come here. And Joe Castiglione and all them convinced him to come. And he brought a lot of stability, brought a lot of doing things the right way, and brought the program into a lot better of a spot now where Porter Moser's inherited it than when Lon got it. And, Lon was always the type of guy that did everything right. I think I read something that he never cussed in practice at his players or anything like that. And I think Porter's similar in that deal, just a high character guy. But I think what Lincoln's done is taken a program that's been very good and is now taking the next step and putting us now arguably the favorite to win the national championship next year. But not enough about football. But I think Porter over the next 5 years could do that in a similar fashion for us.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I just think we just need that younger energy to take that next step, that next leap, and get us to compete because we're already in a great conference. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited for that. I mean, there's enough mystery about him that keeps you intrigued and a little worried, but then there's enough stuff that he's done. You're like, this guy's gotta do well.
Yeah.
And so
a lot of these indicate success, I think, from Porter Moser. Like I was telling Jose earlier today, and sorry, Jose, I'll let you go on to this.
Good.
As far as like the promising things goes, Loyola Chicago had not made the NCAA tournament since 1985. How many years is that? Just off the top, is that 25 years? That's more than that. 35?
He went 30 years.
Yeah.
The Final Four year was the first time he went with Loyola, right?
The first
19
had was
34 years.
There were 4 years. But forget about the Sweet 16 that they did in 85. They hadn't made the NCAA tournament since 85. This dude did it twice. That's encouraging. That's really encouraging. Defensively, when he gets there in 2011, the team is 67th overall in the nation defensively, giving up, looks like 63 points per game. This year, the year he's leaving Loyola, they were the top-ranked defense in all of college basketball. And this is on a points allowed per game basis. This Loyola Chicago team gave up 56 points a game this season.
Yeah, no, he is an amazing coach. And to touch on what both of you said, going back to what Brum said first, how, the football program, Lincoln took over a very stable program and just took it to the next level. And I think Porter's going to do the same, just like Brum said. And he kind of talked about that in his press conference. I love that he got to meet with Lincoln on one of his first days in Norman. I think that they're going to be great for each other. They're going to, those programs are going to start kind of melding, being maybe more like a family between both programs rather than two separate teams. I think it's going to be really cool to watch over the next few years how Porter's going to recruit and use that as leverage. That's something he used, or he said during his press conference. Referring to his press conference, he mentioned how at Loyola during when he first started, no one knew Loyola was a thing. Like he had his LU polos, pullovers, all that stuff on him. No one knew what that meant until he finished his tenure there. Everyone knows Loyola. Everyone knows that while he was the coach there, they were going to be a problem in the NCAA tournament if they got in. And now that he's at Oklahoma, he mentioned it. Like everyone, when you see that OU, it's the Sooners. And with the basketball program where Jordan sponsored, it's going to be a big help for him to be recruiting all those 17 18-year-olds and the transfer portal guys that want to be with a big time program and a great culture. And then with what Brandon said, he also said with the defenses that he had at Loyola, I mean, those kids were really good at playing basketball, but imagine the talent that he could possibly recruit to a big name brand like Oklahoma. It's going to be fun to watch the Big 12 as long as Baylor can still be big when Kansas comes back to what everyone expects them to be on an annual basis. We're going to continue to be the best conference.
State, I mean, look what they did here. They're not going anywhere. Porter Moser, the thing is, he's stepping into a conference that's obviously tough as hell, and he's inheriting some pretty big shoes with Lon going to the tournament 7 times. But he also mentioned that at his press conference multiple times. If you don't know who Porter Moser is, you're going to know soon. Which, in my opinion, that's like it's a confident way of just saying like, I'm there. I can hang with these guys. You're going to find out soon. What do you think, bro?
You're going to get a lot of Porter.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, there's enough success that, you're like, wow, I really think this can translate. But then on the same token, certain things might not translate. And I think he's the type of guy, at least in the beginning, he's not going to get us a bunch of 5 stars. I mean, at the very beginning, at least, he'll get us 3s and 4s, solid players that are probably overachieve, and will do a lot better than what the rating says. And ratings are not everything. And the occasional you get your 5-star in the state of Oklahoma, he'll probably scoop them up. I mean, now with Oklahoma State being more involved, very well could have a harder time competing now.
Like Chris Beard.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be harder. We might struggle to keep our or homegrown talent coming to us, but he'll kid us our 4s and 3 stars, and we'll be extremely competitive. And he might take advantage more of the transfer portal, and once he builds like a culture and what he wants it to be, we very well could become a powerhouse basketball school. It's tough to tell. I just think he's just going to get guys that are going to buy in, work hard, want a degree, just hardworking guys. Yeah.
Selling the OU education as well as OU basketball. But Brum, I think you brought up a good point that I kind of want to segue into. Another Porter Moser question for you guys is, you look at this current team and the way it stands out. Reeves is gone, Davian Harmon is gone, Brady Mannix in the portal, Victor Ivacour's in the portal. Do you think, because he mentioned again at his presser today that he was talking to some of our guys who are in the transfer portal. Do you think he's trying to retain some of these guys that are in the portal? Do you think he's going to, look at the portal elsewhere to try to build guys that fit more of his culture like you were talking about? Because you also mentioned that multiple times. Mm-hmm. And what is a realistic time frame? And I don't want to say competing for titles, but to where this team is like, we're competitive. We're a tournament team. We're a team that can potentially make a run. In my opinion, I think it's still it's probably 4 or so years down the road. Maybe not 4, but 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Brady Manick is gone. And if I were Brady, I would want to transfer to a program. I have 1 year left. I'd want to go somewhere that is a piece away from winning, where I could start and maybe, we can make a run in the tournament. This where we're at now is a little, I know he says I'm not going to call this a rebuild, but with how much talent is leaving, it's tough to convince Brady in your last year, hey, we're going to compete for the Big 12 title, and then we're going to go compete in the NCAA tournament. I think Brady's gone. Ewacor, I mean, I think he would like to keep him. I mean, he's young. I think he was a freshman or sophomore. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's the guy that I like a lot too, is Ewacor.
Yeah, and I know Trey Phipps is gone, but Phipps didn't really contribute a whole lot, and he's already at ORU. But I do think that he's going to look straight to the transfer portal to fill our forward need, with Brady being gone or for a guard. I mean, the transfer portal helped us out this year, this run with Lon. So there's no reason why we can't do the same, or Porter can't do the same this year. Jose, what are you thinking?
No, I think it's very similar to you. I think that with those guys that we have in the transfer portal, I think he reached out to them. He wanted to see why, what the hesitation was to want to stay. And he's not going to try to sell them hard on coming back. I think his approach to this job is going to be, I'm going to build my culture. Lon did a great job to create some sort of stability, and he wants to continue that. And like we said earlier, he wants to elevate it to the next level. So if Brady Manick and Ewacor aren't gonna be part of that plan, he's not gonna worry too much about it. He's gonna move on. He's gonna go to the other guys in the transfer portal. And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take a stand here for Porter. I'm gonna start being his recruiter. Bronny, Mikey Williams, and that big ass white kid that I can't remember his name, come to Oklahoma. Join the Norman family.
Yeah. That's not
happening. I mean,
that's not happening.
101 chips, come to Norman. We're winners.
Yeah. I mean, it would be quite the it would be quite the turn of events. We can only hope. But as far as title, let's just talk about winning the Big 12 conference.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're going to compare this to somewhat to Lincoln Riley, I mean, Lincoln has been here now. He's going into his 5th season. As the head coach? Am I correct?
I think that is correct.
Yeah, I know he's done 4. We're at the point now where if we're not the favorite, we're the second favorite to win the national championship. I think basketball, you can become more competitive quicker. It's fewer kids. I think we could compete if everything goes right in about 3 years to maybe win the Big 12 title. And it might not be for 4 or 5 years, probably closer to 5, before we could probably compete for a national championship, if I'm being somewhat realistic.
Yeah.
And that's I agree with you, because he mentioned today at his press conference that he wants guys, both players and coaching on his coaching staff, that he said that want to be professionals, want to move on. So as far as players, he wants guys that they're NBA guys. They think they're NBA guys. He's like, yes, I like that. But he said, your work ethic's got to match that, and you got to put the time in to do that. So I think it's gonna take a couple of years of him having his recruits, his guys that he recruited, that he lands as a freshman, and he can build them to where he wants them to be before OU is at least in the before OU's winning tournament games at a high level and competing for a national championship. That's going to be 4 or 5 years if everything goes to plan.
I'm with Brum. Yeah. It'll be 3 years. I've already started ordering my Bronny jerseys over here. Yeah. Bronny is a sophomore. 3 years sounds about right to me.
Yeah, no, we can only hope. But I mean, speaking of that, I mean, we can roll into, we could talk a little bit about his coaching staff. We already know, or there's been reports.
Oh, yeah.
About,
these are reports, but it's likely that it's going to be KT Turner and Emmanuel Dildy.
Yeah,
I love, because we poached someone from Texas and fuck them.
I agree.
Yeah, so I mean,
not only you look at KT Turner's background. I mean, the guy he's never been at the head level, obviously, but Texas last year, they took their ass off in the tournament, but that was a very good Texas basketball team. And he was assistant on that staff. He was an assistant on SMU staff that made the tournament twice. Twice won the American Athletic Conference. And then in 2013, he's on the Wichita State team that goes all the way to the Final Four. So obviously there's your winner there. And then with Emmanuel Dildy, the guy that he gets from Northwestern, he's been an assistant at Northwestern for the past couple seasons. I don't know how great Northwestern's been, to be honest. Probably not that great.
Yeah,
but at the
Big
same
Ten's
time,
been good.
Dildy was an assistant under Porter Moser from 2013 to 16. So there's obviously some sort of familiarity, and there's something that he likes in Emmanuel Dildy. And a little bit about Dildy too. He spent about 2 seasons as the head coach of a junior college in Chicago with a 35-27 overall record as a head coach. Made the NCAA tournament once. So I mean,
that's a fun fact.
Decent little experience, but
Yeah,
like
no, definitely.
But the thing is he talked about culture so many times. Like you said, how we segued into this culture. There's something about these guys that he likes, and they're probably high energy. They're probably good recruiters. They're probably gonna
match his energy. Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting to see who he fills the rest of his coaching staff with, which we will definitely keep close tabs on. Speaking of that, and as far as recruiting goes, there's a few things that I've kind of gathered from Colin Kennedy over at OU 247, OU Insider, and he kind of talked to a couple of the recruits. I'll start off with a couple of the guys that are actually signed in this class. Bijan Cortez, who's a point guard, who's a 3-star. Kid, I don't know if any of you saw it, but he tweeted out. He loves Moser. He's bought in. He was keeping close tabs whenever Lon did decide to retire because he really liked Kruger, but he seems to be totally on board. Now, the other kid that we signed is CJ Nolan out of the state of Texas. He's a 4-star shooting guard, and honestly, I don't know if OU really realized how good of a player he is, and we kind of lucked out and got him with Kruger. There have been some reports and some rumors going around that he might look to get out of his national letter of intent after this coaching change, but I'm sure Moser is going to be knocking on his door if he hasn't already. That he's very good, and it would be tough to lose a guy like him. But
he's talking to.
Do what?
I guarantee it's one of the first guys he's talking to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Manic. He doesn't, like Jose said, he probably doesn't. I don't want to say he doesn't care, but that's not his priority. He's looking at the recruiting class coming in, and he sees this 4-star CJ Nolan. He's a damn good player. That's his first phone call. It's not to damn.
Yeah, got to keep your own in your backyard. And then a couple potential for the 2022 class. Isaac Trudant. He's a 4-star forward. He's actually really highly rated. I mean, number 53 overall prospect in the 2022 class, according to 247 Sports. He was a big Lon Kruger fan, and OU has been recruiting him for a long time. But he's interested. He's intrigued with Moser. He talked a little bit about how he thought he did well in Loyola. I mean, who didn't know about Loyola? So he's interested in, forward is a position that OU is thin at, and we really need some depth at. So I'd imagine that's going to be another kid that Moser is going to get on the phone with here pretty soon. And finally, this is just a couple of the kids. TJ Caldwell, he's a 3-star point guard. He was close with Lon Kruger too, and that staff. And he did say that this could potentially affect his decision. He's definitely considering the circumstances now, with this shakeup. But he said he still has an open mind, and he knows Kruger, or not Kruger, knows Moser is a good coach, and that he's gonna definitely be in contact. And it's not necessarily going to be a deal breaker, but it's like a brand new school almost to some degree.
Like you said, it almost is. I mean, it's stressful because want to keep all these lawn guys or lawn recruits, the staff that lawn recruiter was landing and committing to us and things like that. But at the same time, I think it's exciting too. If Porter Moser can keep, let's say, half of it, or the better ones, if he can keep CJ Nolan, if he can keep, some of those other highly recruited guys, and we lose a couple 3-stars, whatever. But if he can keep even half of Lon's guys and gel them with half of his guys, it'll be exciting to see.
Yeah.
Jose,
Yeah. And to give my last thought on Coach Moser, I think that the biggest thing and something I'm really excited about with him being from Chicago, he's been in Chicago pretty much all his life. He's going to bring that Chicago basketball to Oklahoma, and it's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, we've
was that
seen
not the defensive end kind of that we
the
talked about?
defensive thing, and like it's the mentality too. Dwayne Wade coming out of Chicago, he, coming into the NBA, he wasn't like he was highly recruited, but I mean, there were people
I'm not sure he
that
was.
didn't.
He ended
They
up at
were,
Marquette.
yeah, but they're not going into college, but like going into the NBA. Like people thought he was going to be good, but no one thought he was going to be what he ended up being, because people know Chicago is like this gritty style of basketball, never back down kind of thing. But he wasn't a great shooter, and he developed that in the NBA. And I think that Moser is going to bring that gritty style of basketball down to Oklahoma, and it's going to be really fun. So a lot of competitive basketball coming soon in the Big 12 and specifically at the Lloyd Noble Center.